The Valve Index came out in the middle of 2019, but it took me pretty much until the middle of 2020 to get my hands on one. Don't ask me what I had to do to get one. I don't want to talk about it. What I do want to talk about is whether or not I think it was worth upgrading from my Oculus Rift to the Valve Index. The first thing that struck me when I took the Index out of the box was how solid it felt. It really had this feeling of a quality product. It was heavier than the Rift, almost twice as heavy, clocking in at about 800 grams. The straps that go around your head were very thick, very sturdy, and there was this thick, comfortable foam on the inside. Even the wire felt sturdy. It was longer than the wire for the Rift. It was a lot thicker and heavier. It gave the impression of a wire that would take a lot of twisting, which of course is probably something it's going to have to take. And in general, the headset just gives off this feeling of being a quality product. Comfort is of critical importance to the VR experience. If the headset is annoying you whilst you're in a VR game, you're going to be focusing on that instead of the game. It will drag you out of the game and destroy the immersion you have spent so much money trying to acquire. And of course the Valve Index is heavy, almost twice as heavy as my Oculus Rift, so wouldn't that make it uncomfortable? No. Not at all. In fact, I was actually quite amazed at how comfortable the Index is. I did not notice the extra weight on the Index at all. Now, it is possible that the fact that the straps for the Index are so much thicker and some of the weight is going to be there, that the overall weight balance is shifted more towards the centre of your head. I don't know for sure, but overall, I did not feel this headset was pulling me down at all. It just seems to distribute its own weight evenly around your head. It could also be the fact that the head straps with the foam are very comfortable and they hug your head really well. It feels very firm and sturdy on your head, so there's no wobble, but it's not uncomfortable. And of course this makes it a lot easier to forget that you're wearing the headset, which of course is the ultimate aim in the end. Getting the headset on and off and adjusting it for your own head size is very easy indeed. In fact, the headset will pivot in the straps, so you can sort of lift it up a little and look underneath into the real world to make sure you're not about to run face first into a wall. It probably is a lot easier to get this headset on and off if you're wearing glasses because of that. And just overall, once I found a setup that worked for me, I've not had to touch anything since. I put the headset on and I'm away. And lastly, on the subject of comfort for the headset itself, I have to say that the headset does not give off the same sort of heat as the Oculus Rift, or if it gives off the same amount of heat, it must have better airflow, which actually I suspect is the case, because I could wear it for extended periods and I felt far more comfortable, far less claustrophobic than I did with the Rift. I would take the headset off, and whilst I would be a little relieved to get some fresh air on my face, it wasn't the sort of overwhelming sigh of pleasure I would get when taking the Rift off, because my face used to get really warm. I would always feel like I was in some sort of sandy desert no matter what I was playing. I could be playing Skyrim, I'd be on a mountain with snow and I'd feel like there was a hot wind hitting me. With the Valve Index, I've not noticed that as much. However, I'm going to come back to that subject because I suspect there may be another reason the Index actually wins when it comes down to keeping your head cool. Another critical consideration for me when it comes to comfort is how well it works with my existing cable management system. I'm using the Kiwi Design Silent VR cable system version 2 that I reviewed in a previous video. I'll leave a link down below. That system is still working, by the way. The pulleys are still silent and they have not deteriorated, and more importantly, they were more than capable of supporting the new much heavier cable without any issue actually. And in fact, I think the thicker cable may actually be a bit of an advantage if you are hanging the cables from the ceiling. I'm not sure if it's the weight of the cable, the stiffness of the cable, or perhaps even the weight of the headset. But when I was moving around my room, I did not feel the cable system tugging on the wire at all. With the Rift, I would feel it if I got towards the extremes. I don't feel it with the Index at all. And again, it could be the heavier cable just making everything a bit smoother. Not 100% sure. What I can tell you is I don't feel the tug on the cable system until I try to get out of the room or something, which is generally a bad idea if you're wearing a VR headset. One other cable related issue that's well worth mentioning from the point of view of convenience is the cable itself splits in two. There is a plug that splits close to the computer. So you can actually plug the bit that goes into your computer that has a display port, power connector and a USB connector into the computer, and then take out your headset with the rest of the cable and store it. Then you've just got one single cable sticking out the back of your machine, and I have mine resting on the top of the machine. And when I want to plug the headset in, I just walk over and plug the cable in. It's very, very simple. I don't need to go to the back of the computer. I don't need to plug 3 things in, and I don't need to leave the headset connected all the time. It's a nice little addition actually. Very, very convenient if you want to store the headset or leave it on a shelf or something rather than on your desk. Okay, so the thing is really nice to wear, but you did not spend $1,000 to get a comfortable hat. You want to know, how does it look? How does it compare to something like the Oculus Rift? Well, again, the simple answer is it looks brilliant. It really is a major step up on something like my old Rift. Gone are the days of the screen door effect. For those of you that don't know, because the screens were so close to your face, you could almost see the pixels, and it gave this sort of effect of looking through a screen door. That does not seem to be a problem with the Index at all. It didn't matter whether I was playing Half-Life Alyx, Fallout 4, Skyrim, they all looked so much better. In fact, one of the things I did notice is the image was so much clearer, I began to notice things like edge shimmer in Skyrim. For those of you who know that game well, you know there's the dreaded edge shimmer you get from aliasing. You couldn't see that in the Rift because everything looked like it had edge shimmer. Now, I only notice it on things like the dreaded farmhouse fence that shimmers horribly. Everything else looks really nice and smooth, especially if you crank up the super sampling. Writing is much clearer and easier to read with the Index than it is for something like the Rift. I had no issues whatsoever in any of the menus or reading in-game books, for example. Everything was just crystal clear. Things like reflex sights were still a little difficult for me to look at. I don't like reflex sights in VR, but they're better in the Index than they are in the Rift. The refresh rate is really good in the Index. You can push it as high as 144, which does make things very smooth and very pleasant for your eyes. High refresh rate is even more important in VR gaming than it is in non-VR gaming. And don't worry if you're not sure your computer can handle 144 frames a second in all of the games you play, because you can drop the refresh rate very, very easily at any point more or less in any game, and you can drop it to 120 to 90 or even 80 hertz, and I drop mine to about 90 in Skyrim because I play a heavily modded Skyrim, but I can keep it at 144 in Half-Life Alyx. So you've got control over that, and it is very, very easy to change. Sound. This is an odd one. The Index comes with two speakers that sit very close to your ears. They're not actually headphones because they don't touch your ears. There's no cup going over your ears. There's nothing that touches the side of your head. They just sort of hover near to your ears. And they sound pretty good. You have all the advantages of having sort of open can headphones. But they have zero noise cancellation whatsoever. And if you're the sort of person who's got a good set of headphones, you're probably going to prefer the sound your headphones have. I mean, I've got Sennheiser RS-180s, which is not the best set of headphones, but it's reasonable, and I do prefer the sound from that to the sound from the Index speakers. Now, luckily, you can remove the speakers. It's very easy. Just quick screwdriver, take them off, and then you can put your headphones over your head, and they do not conflict with the VR headset at all. But, and you knew there was going to be a caveat by the way I was leading up to this, but it does make your head a lot warmer. You remember I said earlier, one of the big advantages to the Index is I could wear it for long periods and not feel like my head was overheating. Well, that advantage has gone if you put your own headphones on, because I immediately noticed I started to get very, very warm. And I realised that part of the reason the Index is so comfortable and does a good job of cooling your head is the way it's handled the speakers. They don't touch your head, and they allow unrestricted airflow around the side of your head, and that really helps cool you. And so even though I do prefer the sound on my headset, I put the speakers back on, and I've not regretted it. The sound is good enough. It's reasonably good. So I'd rather have reasonably good sound and my head not overheat than the opposite. So, this is one of those things where I've got to give them a thumbs up for how they've handled sound. It is probably the best solution for this VR headset. One alternative might be to use earbuds, because then of course you would still get the air flowing around the side of your head, and the headset does come with a headphone jack on the inside, so it would be very, very easy to set up. I'm just not totally sure how much of an improvement earbuds would be over the speakers that come with the headset itself. If you do get a Valve Index, I encourage you to at least try the speakers and give them a chance. They are pretty good. Good enough. The microphone is surprisingly good. It's a lot better than most gaming headset microphones. Not as good as a decent microphone, but good enough for playing and even streaming. If you're a streamer and you want to chat to your chat, it's good enough for that. There is a little bit of a muddy sound on it. It isn't quite as clear. It will pick up more of your breathing because of its position, and if you touch the headset, people will be able to hear it, so bear that in mind. But overall, the microphone's not bad at all. The controllers, or the knuckle controllers as they're often called. These are fairly standard in many ways, in that on the top where your thumbs sit, it's very reminiscent of a console controller that's been split in half. So, you've got two buttons on either hand that you can press with the thumb. You've got a thumbstick. The one on the left usually controls motion. The one on the right will control things like looking around if you are seated when playing. And there's a trackpad thing in the middle. I've used a little. I'm not in love with it yet, but I'm sure I'll get used to it. There are two other buttons that will control menus, that sort of thing. You also have the triggers, as you would expect, and a grip button. For the want of a better word, it's more like a grip panel. But the two things that make these controllers a little different are, number one, they're strapped to your hands. And I don't mean there's a tether that will stop you dropping them or throwing them across the room accidentally like you've got on the Oculus Rift touch controllers, although these controllers did come with tethers that you can use if you want. Some people might want them so they could take them off their hands and just have them dangling. I don't use them because I don't need them and I just don't want extra things dangling off my controllers. These things are actually strapped to your palms completely securely, and you can open your hand and wiggle all of your fingers without any worries. This is obviously very nice when you're doing things in VR like throwing things. It means your throwing action is a lot more natural than, say, with the touch controllers on the Rift, where when you release your grip, you release one finger off the grip button, but you have to keep the other fingers on the controller, otherwise you will throw it away from you. You don't have that problem with these knuckle controllers. The second thing that's different is they will detect all of your fingers individually, which is very cool and opens a lot of new possibilities in VR for manipulation. It's one of the things I really did like. And I can tell you, playing Half-Life Alyx was an absolute joy with these controllers. I've not tried with the Rift controllers, but these were amazing. It allowed me to feel like I was there very, very easily. I would be grabbing door handles and opening them, holding on to objects and passing them from hand to hand. I even found myself trying to open bottles because it felt so natural to do so, and I was doing it without thinking. I didn't have to think, okay, hold the grip button now. I just gripped. And then if I want to drop something, I just opened my hand. I never had to worry about accidentally dropping the controller, and that really did help with the VR experience. But there is a downside to this, partly because they're strapped to your hands, but also partly because the sensors for the controllers are placed on the outside of your hand. So your hand sits inside the controller itself. This frees up your fingers. Your fingers and thumb are free to do a lot of things that you couldn't do with the Oculus Touch, which is brilliant, but it does restrict what you can do with, say, the palm or the back of your hand. For example, with the Oculus Touch, I could open my hand and roll the controller into my fingers, and then my palm would be completely empty. I would then be able to put my right hand in the palm if I was shooting a weapon, and my hand would actually make contact with my palm. With these controllers, I've still got the controller in one hand and the sensor part is below my hand. So the sensor part and the controller are sort of clashing. So I have to sort of balance the controller itself on the heel of my thumb perhaps, or my wrist. It's not as natural, it's not as well supported, and it's not as steady. And worse, there is a tendency when I'm, in battle in the heat of the moment and I put them together, I hit the controllers. Now the controllers are pretty tough, but I have managed to damage the faceplate on one of them, although that was by smashing it into a desk. So you're probably not going to hurt them by hitting them together, but it's not something I enjoy doing. For a start, it tends to knock you in game. You've instinctively tried to put the palm of your left hand on the bottom of your right hand and then smash the controllers. It throws you a little, makes a sound, and it's kind of annoying. There are ways around it. You can sort of rest your wrists on each other, etc. But the sensors themselves, if you get too close, the sensors can clash. You can't use the back of your hand for the same reason. So there are ways around all of these problems, but it does mean that these controllers are not as good as, say, the Oculus Rift Touch controllers when it comes to being able to use the back end of your hand or the palm. They're just far superior when it comes to using your fingers, which are completely unobstructed. There are ways to get round the limitations of having the controllers strapped to your hands. For example, somebody actually suggested I rest my right hand, or more importantly, the right wrist, in the left hand's fingers, not the palm. And that actually works reasonably well. It's not instinctive, but it's a way I could aim, support my hand, and not have the controllers clashing. Although there is still a tendency if I get too close to clash on them. But, you know, there are ways around it. There are almost no ways around not having your fingers free if the controller is not strapped to the palm. So what I would say is gunplay actually felt slightly better in the Oculus Rift with the touch controllers. It felt a little more natural to shoot with pistols. Even the grips themselves felt a little more like pistol grips than the index controllers. So that is a thing to think about. However, everything else feels better with the index knuckle controllers. All of the manipulation you do, throwing things feels so much better. But generally manipulating the environment, reloading the weapons is easier with, you know, in Half-Life Alyx you can actually pull the slider back. That's easier with the index controllers than with, say, the touch controllers. There is a trade-off. And what I will tell you is, whilst the gunplay element is reasonably nice, you know, when I played Fallout 4 VR with the touch controllers, it was nice. And I did enjoy that maybe a little more than I enjoy it with the index controllers. It's not that big a difference, and there are ways around it. Whereas everything else that the index controllers bring, especially if the game makes use of them, just blow the touch controllers out of the water. So these win hands down, which is an odd pun really. Tracking for the headset and the controllers is exceptionally good and is done via a couple of base stations that came with the kit. Those base stations are really easy to set up. You just find a place on opposite sides of the room, put them there. They do not need to connect to your computer directly. All they need is a power socket nearby. So it was really easy to set them up. With the way I've got my room set up, because I've got a lot of furniture in here, I did manage to find a few dead zones where I could put the controller and one of the base stations would not be able to see it, and then I could maneuver my body between the controller and the other base station and lose tracking. It wasn't easy, it didn't happen a lot, and overall 2 stations is probably going to be good enough for more or less everyone. I did, however, notice that when the controller only had view of one base station, the movement, the tracking felt a little less smooth. I couldn't see it exactly, it's difficult to describe, but as I waved my hand around, I felt like it wasn't tracking quite as smoothly. Again, very hard to explain. I did purchase a third base station, so I've got a triangle set up now, and it's pretty much impossible for me to lose tracking of any of the controllers unless I climb underneath my desk and hide them. That is pretty much the only way now, so there's no chance I will lose sight or lose tracking on any of the items. And it also means there's almost always going to be 2 stations tracking every object minimum, which really does feel very smooth. I don't know whether it's necessary for most people. In fact, I would recommend, if you're going to get this system, try the 2 base stations first of all and see if it's good enough for you. It probably will be. However, although I would say the tracking for the Valve Index is way superior to the Oculus Rift, there is a downside to the Valve solution, and that downside is the noise that the new base stations make. It's awful. It's this sort of high-pitched electric coil whine sound that just really grates on my nerves. The different base stations have got different volumes. The one I bought, the third one, is actually the loudest. The 2 that came with the set, one's quite loud, one's reasonably loud, but they're all bad. There's none of them that are good, and it really is an extremely distracting sound. I could not sit in the room with the base stations on unless I was playing VR. It really is that loud and that annoying. Now, it's not loud enough to be heard over the sounds of the game, and it can't be heard in a different room. So if you're playing VR, you are not going to notice the sound. You're still going to have a ton of fun, and people in the other room are not going to be complaining about the noise. They won't even hear it. But once you take the VR headset off, you're taking a break, you're going to be able to hear it, and you may want to get out of the room whilst you're taking the break. And once the VR session is over, you will almost certainly want to unplug the base stations. Now, the good news is it's not that difficult unless you've got them plugged in some really inaccessible place. I've actually got one of the base stations plugged in very close to my computers at a waist height socket, and you also have to plug a power source in for the headset anyway, so I just leave them both unplugged when I'm not in VR, and I just plug them in. And then the other two base stations I've got on an extension cord at the back of the room, and I just plug that extension cord in and I'm good to go. And it's not that big of a deal to have to do this setup, because you're probably going to spend 30 seconds to a minute getting the headset out, plugging that in, then another 30 seconds sorting the cable management, getting the controllers powered up, moving your chair aside, just generally preparing for VR. So it becomes part of the VR preparation process to turn these things on and off. But it is a major flaw, in my opinion. This is not something I had to do with the Oculus Rift. And I can imagine if you were using VR for something that didn't involve a lot of noise, if you were, doing VR in silence and perhaps even doing some, application work in VR, it would be insanity inducing. It really is that horrible. At least it is for me. It's the sort of sound that just makes my shoulders tense up. Valve, you need to fix this. You need Base Station version 3.0 Stealth Edition, okay? So, in conclusion, the Index is a great VR system. If it's your first VR system, you're going to love it. If you're upgrading from something like the Oculus Rift, you're really going to see the difference. You're going to feel the difference. The headset is so comfortable. It's going to look so much clearer when you're in game. The controllers are, they're just so much fun to use, especially if you play games like Half-Life Alyx. The sound is good. The tracking is great if you can put up with that noise, and again, you won't notice the noise too much whilst in VR. Overall, if you've got the money, this is probably the VR system to get for most gamers. It is an upgrade for those that have been holding off. If you've had an old system, one of the original Rifts like me, and you're enjoying VR, but you're thinking, is it worth making the leap? Will I notice the difference? The answer is yes, you are going to notice the difference, feel the difference. It is going to change the VR experience for the better. And that's it. I hope I've managed to give you some insight into what the Valve Index is like to use, especially if you are an existing VR user with an older system and you're thinking of upgrading. I hope you've got a better idea of whether or not you want to spend what is rather a lot of money on the premium VR gaming system. And I hope the video wasn't too long and rambly, which it probably was because it's one of my videos. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on this little journey. I hope to see you again, and I wish you the best of luck in your VR endeavours, and hope you have a good time, and a time that doesn't involve, slamming your hand into the edge of your desk. Because that's still a thing. You can upgrade your VR system, but if you smash your hand into the edge of your desk, it still hurts.
Did you leave any grenades behind? Did you leave? You did, you lost.